We'll just wait for 5 minutes for everyone else to join and then we'll start. We'll just wait for 5 minutes more and then we'll start the class. In the previous class, I've told you about my modus operandi and the sources that I will be following. Hello everyone, if you have joined, please send a hello or a yes. We'll just wait for 1 minute more, okay? Then we'll start. In the previous class, we have studied about we studied up till um, the arrival of Europeans, and I told you about from the start that how the Mughals got decimated, and how important acts were made, and then finally how the conquest of the British East India Company started. Okay, the rest part that we are going to start today is from the conquest of Bengal, because Bengal, I told you brief history that what was happening in India when the British arrived at its shore, and with that I told you about the lightning of Marathas. I told you about the third battle of Panipat. I told you about the subsequent states that emerged from the Mughal Empire, like Hyderabad, like Karnataka, like Bengal, and extra. And then I told you about the impact of Portuguese, that how one by one Europeans came, and how the East India Company emerged at as the highest level. Okay, so last class I got a feedback that MCQ was not there. So one question is it that consider the following statements regarding the third battle of Panipat. The Marathas were supported by the Rajputs and ruler of Awadh and Punjab in this battle. The battle proved to be a setback for British ambitions in India and greatly strengthened. Now, which of the following statements is correct? I again repeat the question that consider the following statements regarding third battle of Panipat. The Marathas were supported by the Rajputs and the ruler of Awadh and Punjab in this battle. The battle proved to be a setback for British ambitions in India and greatly strengthened the Afghan Empire in India. Which of the following statements are correct? In the last class, we had discussed about the third battle of Panipat and the catchy line that actually tells you what the third battle of Panipat was. The third battle of Panipat was fought to decide who was not to rule India rather than who was to rule India. This was the third battle of Panipat, which is summed up like this. So, regarding third battle of Panipat, what is the answer? I'm still waiting. One more. Hello Abhishek. Hello Jinal. Hello Nishka. There seems to be a lot of lag. Okay, so the answer is correct. Melody R is correct. The answer is D, because the Rajputs did not meddle with the Marathas, because Marathas had interfered in the internal affairs of Rajputana states. And I told you that Marathas had become so powerful that they were now controlling the revenue collection, which was once headed by the Mughals. So Marathas had even interfered in the internal affairs of Rajputana states and levied Chauth and Sardeshmukhi. Awadh, Punjab, and Jats were not happy because Marathas were an imperialist power. They were expanding their territories. Further, the first statement is wrong because Marathas had angered everyone. So everyone provided a joint front against the Marathas to get them attacked by Ahmad Shah Abdali. So the statement one is not correct because the Marathas had to fight all their enemies alone. And the second statement is this battle proved to be a setback for the British. It happened on the opposite, that this battle proved to be very beneficial for the British, because it is said that third battle of Panipat decided who were not to rule India, rather who were. Okay, so neither the Marathas nor the Afghans, led by Ahmad Shah Abdali, defeated India, who defeated the Marathas. Neither he or nor the Marathas ruled, but it was in fact the British who were the ultimate beneficiaries. And we'll see in Battle of 1757, Plassey. After Battle of Plassey, there is Battle of Buxar, where British one brick by one brick, they emasculated the whole of India. Okay, so this was the last thing that we discussed. Today we are going to start with the conquest of Bengal. So let us start with conquest of Bengal. Now I already told you that after attaining the Golden Farman from Farooq Siyar in 1717, the British started the establishment of a new city called as Calcutta, which comprised of three cities, namely Kalikata, Sultanati, and Govindpur. Now these three cities combined will give you Calcutta, right? And they started fortifying Calcutta at Fort William. Now this Fort William is very important because it was asked in the previous exam 2020 that why was Fort William made as a recruitment ground, or after basically the recruitment of the British civil servants, they were trained here at Fort William in the Indian customs and traditions, so that they become accustomed to the civil service and they will perform the company's role, being accustomed to the local dialect, local language, local traditions, and etc. So this was a question in 2020, uh, which was a very straightforward question. Okay, British civil servants were trained in the Fort William that was created in Calcutta. Okay. Next, Sirajuddaulah became Nawab of Bengal. Now, I told you the successor states Awadh, Bengal, Hyderabad. So, Sirajuddaulah was to become the Nawab of Bengal, which ordered, after seeing fortifications in Fort William, he ordered them to cease and desist. They did not, so Nawab. Now, this is the first time that Nawab defeated the British. Okay. Now, they were also French establishment near Chandarnagar. But as soon as Sirajuddaulah told them, the Nawab of Bengal ordered them to stop, to cease and desist. But the French ceased and desisted, but the British did not. So what he did is he ordered the British to leave, and then there was this large massacre. Now you have heard about the black hole tragedy, where in a black hole, I mean in a very small room of nearly 2 by 2 feet, nearly 30 to 50 British people were made to escape there. Okay, so they died. So now the authentication of this claim is again a very tricky one, because the British claimed more than 100 people died, and the Nawab claimed that nobody died. In fact, this didn't happen. Now, again, history is a game of narrative. So, Black Hole Tragedy is a narrative for the British to say that we were right in deposing the Nawab of Bengal because he had killed more than 100 of his people. Okay, so if Black Hole Tragedy comes, Black Hole Tragedy is related to, then you can write the Conquest of Bengal, then you can write the Battle of Plassey, and then you can write the aforesaid killing of Britishers by the hands of Nawab forces. Okay, so this can be asked, what do you mean, or in what context black hole tragedy is used? Now after this they followed divide and rule. Now they had been defeated in the first battle. After Nawab Bengal ordered them to cease and desist, after fortifying Calcutta, they were defeated. Now what happened is they followed divide and rule, and what they became like, Mir Jafar was the military general of Nawab Bengal, so they offered him lure and bribe and told him that they will make him king. Now further, Jagat Seths. I told you about Jagat Seths. Jagat Seths are powerful bankers who were at that time one of the largest bankers at that time. Okay, so they were persuaded to shift their loyalties. This culminated into Battle of Plassey, fought near the banks of Bhagirathi around Murshidabad. Okay, so now what happens is Mir Jafar, the defector, rather we can say the general of the Nawab Dala, was decided he will not fight. Further, Jagat Seths were persuaded not to provide money in the face of battle. So when money is not there, no more people can be recruited. Soldiers is gone and money is gone. Now what is left is only the Nawab. This culminated into Battle of Plassey 1757, which is fought near the banks of Bhagirathi around Murshidabad. Murshidabad is in Bengal. This was just a matter of time as they had already defected to Brits. As I told you that these two people defected to the Brits and it was just a matter of time. Now we have to understand that if there is a question regarding Mir Madan and Mohanlal, these were the only two we can say generals that fought bravely for the Nawab and died during the Battle of Plassey. But the Battle of Plassey is generally looked at as a not as a battle, but it was over in 1 or 2 days because maximum party defected to the other side. Okay, now there are long-term implications of Battle of Plassey. Okay, the first long-term implication of Battle of Plassey is people have no sense of nationalism. They have no allegiance to the land. They are not bound by the oaths and by the sacred people because in England, in Europe, you have to understand that there emerged a nationalism concept. This nationalism concept is a people living around the same geographical area, following or speaking the same language and following more or less the same type of religion become a nation and they have a feeling of nationalism. They when they arrived in Bengal and when they won the Battle of Plassey, they understood that there is no sense of nationalism here. There is just allegiance to power, to finance, to money, to trade, plunder, loot, and war. Everybody was fight with everybody, given you provide them more money and more power. Okay, so the next implication of Battle of Plassey was free trade in resources. Bengal. Now Bengal is considered as one of the most richest state during the time of Aurangzeb, when India was nearly about 30% of world's GDP, Bengal was nearly 20 to 25% of India's GDP. So you can imagine the richness in Bengal. For the first time with the natives in which company emerged victorious. So I told you 1757 was the first pedestal on which the whole British Empire uh, establishment led itself. Okay. Again, Battle of Plassey. Now, what happened in Battle of Plassey is Mir Jafar was installed in the place of Nawab. Okay, but he was made to pay what? He was made to pay gifts to the British, and these gifts were so high that the Bengal finance treasury it nearly collapsed. So what happened is the Britishers became kingmakers and they had power without any responsibility, emerged in the most powerful foreign power which has now all for colonization. Now we studied sorry, we studied about Portuguese, why it left, we studied about Danish, the Dutch. Only the power which challenged Britishers was the French, but French was also very handsomely defeated. Okay, so it was the most powerful foreign power which was now all for colonization. Now I have to tell you that this company was called Merchants Adventurers. Okay, it was the first publicly traded stock trade company in London at that time, public stock company. People who bought their stocks are the members of House of Lords in the Britishers. So they are very wealthy people. And what happened is they are a private company. They are in no way related to the crown. They had just effectively got a sanction from the crown and they have started trading here. Okay, so it no way they are dependent or they are the representative of the king or the queen. Now, the vast sources of blood finance further came the whole sense of India. War bounty at gifts and present following which now we have to understand that the war bounty at gifts, when asked, Mir Jafar thought that he would have to pay once, but he was again and again and again told to pay such sums, such sums. So what he did is he cancelled those. So following this, Mir Jafar was replaced by his son-in-law Mir Qasim. Okay, Mir Qasim was placed on the throne. Now Mir Qasim was, you can say Mir Qasim was a trader. Okay, his father was a very big export-import trader during Mir Jafar's, and he. So what happened is Mir Qasim he abolished Dastak. Now Dastak is a trade privilege which was made tax-free from the Farman of 1717. Okay, but after the Battle of Plassey, what Europeans were doing is they were selling their Dastak to the local people at higher and higher. And there are so what happened is higher and higher trade, and then this Dastak uh, literally was a kind of discrimination between traders. Okay, now the things that were sold through Dastak were 1 by 10th the price that was available in the market. So what happened is the inflation was also happening. Okay, too few money are chasing too many money are chasing too few goods, and then what is happening is our overall rise in the tax. So what is happening is this trade privilege was only given to Europeans, and these Europeans we are transferring the dastak by getting higher sum of money. Ultimately, what is happening is the market is shrinking. So he abolished dastak. Now, fearing that that this trade privilege was snatched away, Mir Jafar was again reinstalled. Now Mir Qasim was a bitter man. What he did is he left Bengal and he, along with the Nawab of Awadh, Shah Shujaud and the then Mughal king Shah Alam II, decided to challenge the British, which is in the Battle of Bihar, that is in the plains of Bihar, which directly culminated into Battle of Buxar 1765. Okay, am I clear? If I can get any acknowledgement, yes, no, everybody is listening. Seems like only two people are watching. Let's start. Then results of Battle of Buxar. Now what happens is due to Major Hector Munro, Brits were better organized and disciplined unlike the Indians. Now the fate of Bengal Nawabs were sealed and company became the face of administration. Now what happened from the Battle of Buxar is due to Major Hector Munro, Brits were better organized and disciplined unlike the Indians. Indians had the upper hand in the number game, but Mir Qasim, along with Shah Alam II and everything, was a fight. The fate of Bengal Nova was sealed, and the company became the face of administration. Symbolically, Mughal ruler was defeated and shifted to Allahabad under the Treaty of Allahabad to now denote that Brits are paramount power in the subcontinent, imprisoning the Mughal king. Okay, so what happened is there were two treaties signed. One treaty was signed between Shah Alam II and the Brits. This was called Treaty of Allahabad. According to this Treaty of Allahabad, the Mughal king was now made to transfer from Delhi to Allahabad so that they could denote that they are now the real rightful owners after the Mughal ruler, and the British are now stationed in Delhi, and they simultaneously acquired Diwani rights of Bengal, Bihar and Odisha land revenue. This was the first land revenue act that they got. Now again, dual administration of Bengal. Now what happened is they imposed a sort of better clampdown. What they did is they had a dual administration of Bengal, whereby Diwani company and law and order under Nawab, but only at the face and no real value. Now dual administration where Diwani rights were with the company, because Bengal, Bihar and Odisha, according to Treaty of Allahabad, was given to the company, and Nawab was only the face value. Okay, to administer the criminal complaints. Now, there is also a catch. Now, there was a Naib Subedar appointed by the British, on whose aid and advice the Nawab would decide the criminal matters also. So, further, Nawab was victimized and had no such power. Clive liked dual system because shadow of authority of Nawab, so people don't revolt. Nobles also don't unite as the king is still there through nomination only. Further, about interference from the British Parliament back home. Thus, this all culminated into confusion, corruption, and extortions, resulting into drain of wealth of 10 to 5 finally into the Great Famine of 1760. Now, you'll ask me why Bengal first. Now, Bengal first is because it was the resource rich Bengal. Bengal was a resource rich, at that time, the most prosperous kingdom of the British. So British thought to make the base here and then to proceed to the next. Indian places near shore, so that armies from nearby can be assembled very fast. Now armies from Burma can be and the Middle East, the Southeast Asia, here army can be very effectively got. Now the most educated middle class supported ideologically modernity. The company as Nawabs were always hung over old times, etc. Okay, the educated middle class supported the British because British symbolized modernity not only in the administration system but also ideologically. Jagat Seth financed war very easily and were the largest Bengal of world. Then Jagat Seth found that they would get a better deal. Now, great belt for recruiting soldiers. Orissa, Bengal, Eastern UP, better. Now, again, I told you about nationalism. There was no nationalism. It was only who will pay me more. Okay, so I think we'll stop here. This is the conquest of Bengal. Okay, next we'll start with what we'll have expansion down south. Now you have to understand these things are happening simultaneously. Okay, the Bengal has fallen, the Treaty of Battle of Buxar has happened, and the company became the phase of administration. The Nawab was just a mere pawn in the hands of the company, which had all the powers but no responsibility. Thus became the loot and plunder of Bengal, and in a matter of 10 to 15 years, which is called drain of wealth theory, Bengal became from a prosperous stage to an impoverished stage, ultimately culminating into the Great Famine of 1773, after which the British Parliament had come in and had started regulating. So, very effectively, Robert Clive, as he was called the Clive of India, but what he did was to ensure that much of India belonged to him. Okay. Now, expansion down south. These things are happening simultaneously. Now, the Bengal has fallen. Okay. Now, we go towards the south, that is the Mysore. Now in South India, now why is Mysore important? You will ask. Okay. So further you have to see why is Mysore important. Mysore is very important because Mysore controlled large. First of all, Mysore was the most prosperous after Bengal. Okay, and there was this emergence of an imperialist power under Hyder Ali, who had just seized power from the Bodayar dynasty, whose military general was Hyder Ali. Okay, so what we'll start is in South India. What is Mysore? Mysore is the current region of Karnataka. Some parts of modern Andhra Pradesh also. Okay, the emergence of Mysore as a significant power in mid 18th century was most spectacular. Now Mysore is considered as one of the most prosperous regions. Earlier it was a part of Vijayanagaram, which after transformed to autonomous principality by Vodayar dynasty. Okay, now under Hyder Ali, who was the chief minister and the military general, he organized and undertook certain reforms. Okay, now, okay, now military reforms. The number first military reforms was the Risala reform system. Hyder Ali introduced Risala system in military. Every Risala was considered fixed number of troops, horsemen, and ammunition. A centralized system of revenue administration introduced a new system imposing taxes directly on peasants and collecting them through salaried officials and cash, thus enormously increasing the resource base of the state. What is Risala system? Risala is a fixed number of ammunition, horsemen, troops, and contingent system. Now, if you will get us what is Risala system, so it is related to Mysore kingdom. Military fiscalism is the directly taxes were collected by the state. No middleman was there. Okay, so what after Hyder Ali, his son Tipu Sultan is considered as one of the greatest ruler to have lived in the dark ages, where the Britishers were expanding and the Indians were losing the battle. Now Anglo-Mysore Wars. The reason of Anglo-Mysore War were rapid territorial expansion under Hyder Ali and later Tipu Sultan. Carnatic War Treaty in Madras, Mysore expansion also appeared to be military threat in Madras, Anglo-French rivalry. Also, Marathas and Hyderabad acted in collision. Now, the first war, Anglo-Mysore War, first war, was Marathas and Nizams colluded with the English against Hyder Ali, but Hyder Ali defeated them. Okay, Now Marathas and Nizam joined hands with Mysore against the English, and again the Britishers were defeated. Now what Britishers did is they concluded a treaty with the Marathas that is called as Treaty of, okay, Treaty of I'm not remembering the name. Marathas and Nizam again sided with English in under Lord Cornwallis against Mysore because Tipu had recently attacked Delhi. Now, what is divide and rule? Again, first they colluded with the English against Hyder Ali. They were defeated. Now, Hyder Ali persuaded them to join hands and fight the British. Again, the Brits were defeated. Now, in the third, first they concluded a treaty with Marathas, the English, that they will not reciprocate attack of 20 years between them. And then with Nizam, he was Cornwallis who had this arrangement. Now, English under Lord Cornwallis against Mysore because Tipu had recently attacked the Maharaja of Travancore. Okay, now what is the fourth Anglo-Mysore War? It was the decisive round. Finally, in the Seringapatam, the capital of Mysore, Tipu Sultan died defeating this, and a treaty of Seringapatam was signed between the Vodayar king and Tipu Sultan. And Tipu Sultan died. The Treaty of Seringapatam was a treaty signed between the ruler of Vodaya dynasty, who was brought back after Hyder Ali had defeated and seized power, and was brought under subsidiary lands of Lord Wellesley. This meant an end to the independent status of Mysore. A contingent of company's army would be stationed. Now again, I will tell you about subsidiary land system. Once we're done with the conquest, we'll go towards what is the administrative changes, what is the economic changes. I told you about the first class in the my modus operandi. Now I told you about Hyderabad. What had happened? Hyderabad became a successor state under Asaf Jah one, and the Nizam of Hyderabad has been a very dilly and dally player. He first aligned with the Marathas to defeat the British, and he then aligned with the English to defeat Mysore because Mysore had imperialist ambition under Tipu Sultan. And then after everyone was defeated, Nizam was the first to accept what subsidiary lands. Okay, land revenue is a powerful intermediary. Okay, so this is now again we touch upon the Anglo-French rivalry. Anglo-French rivalry is the most important rivalry that had been to